and then I've seen on even on the conservative side. So I just saw a video today where Tim Pool
I saw
has come out and tried to make an argument about self-defense, and I'm like, hey, what are we doing here, guys? Everybody just wants to. This is a cut and dry case.
it
A
is.
17-year-old brought a knife to a high school event and stabbed a kid in the heart. I don't care if the kid said, "Hey, leave." I don't care if the kid touched his backpack. You don't stab. We've all been high school kids and grabbed somebody, and without the I'm gonna get stabbed in the heart for this.
Yeah,
This is insanity.
and
And so I just see a lot going on social media that's all intended to put black and white at odds. And now when I look back at that Derek Chauvin deal, which I believe is Jeremy Boring's idea that he foisted off on Ben Shapiro, it's like they're intentionally trying to stir racial division.
Well, it sells. I mean, it's a proven commodity. I mean, the way it was used in 2016, Black Lives Matter inception, and then when they brought it off the shelf in 2020 again, it's the same thing with Stephen A. Smith. I think that they're just addicted to the narrative type of politics. Like they create a narrative, and they're very used to having control of social media, mainstream media, stuff like that, in order to be able to get it to, be true. Like there's not a chance in the world that, without mainstream media and social media, they would have been able to pull off half of what they did. Like 2020 COVID, if they didn't have mainstream media blocking everybody, people would have just been outside. Same thing with all the messaging around Black Lives Matter and the burning down of cities in 2021. Like in the Summer of Love was insane. Like it was such a surreal experience that people that are on the left were actually openly stating. And I'm a former Democrat. Like I'm a 90s Democrat. Right? That's how I view myself. I really haven't changed much. I've just been labeled as being on the right because, frankly, the left went out fucking crazy. They're out of their goddamn minds, right? So do you think that they'll have the same ability to do these things now that their basically narrative machine is fractured? Like it's not broken because they still have control of Facebook and they still have control of Instagram and TikTok to a certain degree and other messaging things, but nobody's really watching mainstream media as much anymore. Nobody's really watching those sorts of things, and people don't believe what legacy media says as much anymore either. Do you think they'll be able to push somebody like Stephen A. Smith or the racial division as well as they were used to, where like they just made it so every headline read, white man kills black person, or like every single headline was that way? Do you think that they'll have the same ability to do so coming up in this next election cycle that they have, or do you think that they'd still try to find another way?
I think they're in the process of figuring it out and trying to, and they're so desperate that, in my opinion, what they're forcing the uniparty and the controlled opposition, they're forcing them out into dangerous territory where they get exposed and called out as like, oh, you're not really a conservative. You're just a closeted feminist, a closeted leftist. And I say that because the selling of Stephen A. Smith as some sort of presidential candidate. This isn't being pushed by the left. It's being pushed by the right. It's Megyn Kelly.
You're right.
Ron Hannity. It's
Patrick Bet-David.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, speaking of closeted operatives on the right, Nick Fuentes recently called you a token, denigrating your unique voice to American society. Nick Fuentes' contributions to society include telling young men that dating women is gay and fantasizing about cat boys. Before Kanye West linked up with Nick Fuentes, he was talking about Jesus as king. Now Kanye, who's linked up again with Nick, is focused on Hitler and pornography. Do you think Nick Fuentes is a good representative for Christians or even a good leader of men?
No. Nick Fuentes is, you remember white Sean King, who claimed to be black
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
again, do you remember
Wait, Sean.
DeRay McKesson?
Talcum X.
Yeah, Talcum X. Yeah, you remember
Talcum
DeRay
X.
McKesson? DeRay McKesson, the gay Black Lives Matter leader. These guys just pop up out of nowhere. They develop incredible followings. They're given enough inside information to get their credibility up to a certain level, and then they're set loose to promote chaos. And so that's who Nick Fuentes is, in my view. The Boston Globe is writing stories about Nick Fuentes when he's 18, 19 years old because he wore a Trump hat at some rally. And like, oh, hold on, man, I know how the legacy media operates. I know how newspapers operate. I was, in the newspaper industry and a star in the newspaper industry at the highest level for years. 18, 19-year-olds that wear a MAGA hat they don't get profile stories on the front page of the Boston Globe. They don't get written about at 18, 19 years old unless someone has a plan for them. I'm talking about when they've accomplished nothing. And so when I look at the video of Nick on January 6th pulling a full-blown Ray Epps, and there's no consequences, just like none for Ray Epps, I'm like, you got to be working with somebody. And then when I look at someone claiming a Catholic Christian faith, but all the profanity, all the leading people away from a biblical worldview, and for me, Christianity is the key to Western civilization, the key to our Constitution, the key to supporting the values that have made America great. And when I see someone claiming a Christian faith, but leading people away from it, I'm like, that's intentional. And and then when I see them, it's just Charles Manson. I don't want to go too deep with this, guys, but the book Chaos, if you haven't read it, you should read it. And it's totally blows up the whole helter-skelter narrative that we've known for years, that they made movies about. And you understand how he was part of an MK Ultra deep state plant that was allowed to get away with all kinds of stuff. And big part of Charles Manson's rhetoric was about a black-white racial conflict that he was trying to promote and prepare for. And I look at Nick Fuentes, black-white racial conflict that he's promoting, seems to be getting away with things that others spent 4 years in prison facing real oppression for. He gets away with it. Again, whatever the guy they said was the Proud Boy that wasn't even there. Dario or
Enrique Tarrio.
Enrique sits in prison for 4 years, wasn't even there. But a guy on a megaphone telling, hey, this way is the Capitol, jump over the barricade. He does no time. Wow. I don't think he's a force for good. I think he's an operative, and there seems to be an element that's deep within an American culture that wants to promote racial conflict.
When you said closeted operatives, I'm like, oh, I got to ask him about Nick. Both because,
and he's in the closet.
He's an operative, and he's in the closet,
So, it is what it is. I mean, the thing about Fuentes that's so fascinating is how somebody who's never really done anything, like, what has he done? What is his career before just going up and hassling Ben Shapiro with a baby stroller in his hand? That is his claim to fame. That is his tipping point. But he's never accomplished anything, and it's false idolatry. Basically you have these guys who are propped up, who've never done anything, never created business. They've never done anything special. All he could do is speak. It's kind of, I hate to bring up this analogy, it's kind of like Hitler. Really good speaker, really good at engaging people, probably one of the greatest public speakers of all time, by far. If you listen to him speak, man, it's hard. You put that before a football pregame, people going to win that game. You're not losing that game if Hitler's giving your hype. It's not going to do it. So I just look at someone like Nick, and none of it makes sense, because usually you have to have some sort of a resume. Like, you've worked in all these different arenas before what you're doing now. You have a resume. When you go to a job, you apply to be a CEO or a COO or a CMO of a company. You can't go in and become that executive without going through the grind, without actually climbing the ladder. This guy out of nowhere, all of a sudden he's a figurehead for the alt-right. That's just weird. He's done nothing to earn that.
And so now apply that same logic and insight to Stephen A. Smith in the political arena. He can talk great, but there's not an ounce of substance to anything that comes out of his mouth as it relates to politics. And there's less than an ounce of substance that comes out of his mouth when he talks sports. But he's at the top of that profession as well. And it's always the unqualified, unaccomplished that get elevated magically somehow to the most prominent positions.